A very good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. We warmly welcome our esteemed panelists to the session here on Zoom, and also to our viewers who are logging in on YouTube. Thank you for joining us on today. Today is the International Day, Volunteers Day, and an auspicious time for a panel with some esteemed industry leaders here on the role of volunteerism in nation building. This is an initiative of India at 100 Foundation, a CII initiative. The foundation has been working to institutionalize the culture of volunteering, recognizing it as a vital lever for building an equitable, inclusive, and resilient society. The commitment is reflected through the initiatives of India at 100 Foundation, being the National Volunteering Grid, and our upcoming 13th edition of the National Volunteering Week, which is observed in from 18th to 24th of January 2026. So I cordially invite each and every one of you to register and join hands in this collective movement. I'm pleased to welcome the moderator for the session, Sriram Shankar, co-founder and COO of Goodera. Sriram is an experienced leader with a proven track record of building organizations that address large-scale challenges through technology-led solutions. Sriram's passion lies in nurturing high-performing teams and developing organizational capabilities that create lasting impact. Sriram, thank you for joining. And with this, I hand over to you.
Thanks a lot, Aparna, Bhavna, and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for all of the attendees and participants, and of course, all the panelists for taking the time out. I think it's, as Aparna mentioned, it's a fantastic day. It is the International Volunteer Day. That personally gives me a lot of excitement to be able to have a role to play in driving this conversation. I work with Goodera. We are a company that works with companies globally to drive employee belonging and community impact through volunteering experiences. And the reason I say this day is super exciting for me is in the lead up to this particular day over the last 3 to 4 days, we have actually done more than 350 volunteering experiences and events for companies across the globe in 50 plus countries. So it just shows, global support and the kind of commitment and excitement that is there for volunteering. And I think it is no different in India. It needs to be increasingly so in India, but even in India, the way we have looked at it is, it has always been a nation that has been powered by the contribution of citizens. So it is no longer a question of whether volunteering matters. I think the question is more around how do we make it a national force, right? In an organized, scalable way in which it can actually become unstoppable and contribute to take the nation forward. Those are some of the questions that we would like to take up and answer today, and no better set of leaders than what we have today. Some leaders are advocates, but I think all of the leaders on the panel today are not just advocates, they're actually architects. They're architects who are building and driving significantly large volunteering movements. So thank you to each one of you for doing that. And they're also individuals who represent organizations that together reach millions of people, right? Millions of citizens, millions of employees, millions of communities across India. So from that point of view, no greater representation. So I'll just probably go around the table and introduce the panel. I'll start with Chacko Thomas, Group Chief Sustainability Officer at Tata Sons, steering one of the most respected volunteering movements in India, Tata Engage, and shaping sustainability at scale. Welcome to the panel, Chacko Thomas. Thank you. I'll then go to Manisha. Manisha leads inclusion, diversity, sustainability, and community engagement at Amazon. And like everything else in Amazon, I think working at the intersection of scale, equity, and last mile impact. Personally, I've known Manisha for 8 years now. Manisha has been a customer, one of our toughest customers, if I might say so. And when I say that, in terms of being able to push our own understanding of what can happen in terms of scale, systems, teams, etc. So thanks so much, Manisha. Great to again meet you here. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
I then go to Balakumar Thangavelu, Director and CSR and India Head, Outreach, Employee Volunteering, and the Global ESG Lead at Cognizant, championing the convergence of CSR as a part of overall business strategy. I first met Bala 2 years ago at a Karma Summit, which is our contribution to the volunteering space. We do an annual summit, an absolute force of nature. Somebody who brought in incredible insights and passion to the topic of volunteering. Really looking forward to everything that you bring to the table here, Bala. Welcome to the
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you.
Thanks. And then finally, Kurush, Irani, President, Group CSR, Bajaj Finserv, leading with the belief that business growth and nation building are deeply intertwined. Personal connection to Kurush. In an earlier avatar of both of ours, Kurush was my boss in a completely different industry, in a completely different space. I've given him enough grief for several years, but one of the most staunchest supporters, mentors, somebody who just bore with me for those few years that he was my boss. Thanks so much, Kurush, for coming on this panel.
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you.
All right. On that note, let's begin the conversation. I broadly want to steer this conversation in trying to answer 4 large high-level questions in terms of starting with why volunteering matters to nation building, right? And then I'll try to go around the panel, probably providing questions to each one of you. And then if there is any additional points at all that somebody needs to make, feel free to come across. I'll probably start with Kurush, with just a focus on the macro lens and the corporate philosophy, Kurush, right? We all know that Bajaj has long championed that business growth and nation building should go hand in hand, right? And while nation building is a much broader term, volunteering is a microcosm of that, right? So in your experience of how much you know Bajaj and how much you have actually worked in this within that organization, right? How do you see volunteerism as an extension to that mindset, right? As a bridge between the enterprise and just empathetic contribution to the community. We can probably start with that and build upon that topic.
Yeah, thanks, Sriram. And thank you, team, for having me here. I think if I just start and take a step back, right? So the Bajaj Group's legacy dates back to the freedom struggle. The coming year, the group completes 100 years of its existence. And right from Jamnalal Bajajji's days, both from a social, from a freedom struggle perspective, to how the businesses have grown over those many decades, is something that all of us have grown up, heard, learned, seen it in action in many, many ways. Now, coming back to the specific question, Sriram, I think you put it well, right? So nation building has many. Volunteering is one of the components, not necessarily the only component. But each company, and I think we have representation here from so many wonderful organizations who are playing a role from a nation building perspective. Because we are in financial services at Bajaj Finserv, even something as simple as access to credit and getting people who are not in the credit cycle engaged from credit is a step towards nation building because it formalizes them from the economy, from credit, from growth perspective. Now, one may not traditionally think of that as nation building, but if you actually see the numbers and how it moves the momentum, it's a large part of the business model itself. But I'll just keep that aside. And coming to the specific piece on volunteering, at a conceptual level, I don't think there's any disconnect because the two go hand in hand. As whether it's organizations or whether it's employees, as they get involved, it builds a certain ethos, it builds a certain empathy, it builds a certain framework on which you can take it forward. And there are enough and more examples. I think COVID was a classical case, right? When we saw what happened during COVID, and that's where most organizations, if not all, how they stepped up, not just for the employees, but whether it was with the vaccines, the availability of it, and how they contributed both from a monetary perspective, but even from a process and from a distribution perspective. And the Bajaj Group was quite active, involved in that activity too, in around Pune and Maharashtra from the work that was done. typical volunteering, when you think about it, you a certain image, right? You imagine a person going and doing certain activities. That's the traditional image, and you're seeing them working on it. But I would challenge that and say there are many other ways in which people volunteer, even without being directly involved in the front. And a lot of examples. I think one way, simplest way, and it's a hierarchy, right? But even giving, whether it's your money or your time, is a starting point. So having structured programs where employees contribute part of their salary in a sustained manner for causes is one example. Second, typically, and it's true for us, I'm sure it's true for most organizations, whenever there is a calamity, whenever there is a disaster, how employees step up in terms of both money and things in kind to help out in the different locations is another example of how it plays out. And increasingly, what we are seeing is beyond these two, how are they contributing with their skills? Employees come with certain unique skills. Now, these unique skills can assist some of the partner organizations who are working in this space, working with a large diaspora of different segments of people. And those skills can also be a big lever in terms of how you can get an impact to the beneficiaries or to the different segments, because you have enabled a certain skill which you use that skill in your normal day-to-day work life as a given to drive business. Part of that skill, how does it make a role? How does it contribute from that perspective is another thing. Right. So I think overall there are many such levers that come into play. Typically, we've seen HR also play a big role in leveraging employees for various activities, whether it's on the ecology side, whether it's plantations, blood donations, money collections, getting a lot of our NGO type of partners to put up their stalls, their events in office premises, so that not just visibility, but even from an income generation, it starts picking in. But it's something that we see working at two levels: an employee doing things on their own, and then an organization also enabling it. And how do we bring the two together is what takes it up. Within the Bajaj Group, because of the ethos and the backdrop that we all come from, this is something which is quite deeply ingrained and something that attracts and gravitates people to walk down that direction.
Got it. Thanks, Kurush. Interesting. I have actually a couple of points that I'll probably pick on in the later part of the conversation. Now on to Chacko Thomas. So one of the Tata Engage program by itself is considered and truly considered as one of the largest corporate volunteer movements, right? But if you were to just take a step back and reflect, right, as it spans companies, geographies, it is scale at its largest, sustained over a period of time. So when you think about both scale and just the sustainability of such a large program, right, it might have been named differently earlier, but of such a large program, what are some of the largest or the biggest learnings from your point of view? You're on mute, Chacko.
Technology. So, firstly, thanks, Sriram, for having me here. And was a real pleasure hearing Kurush speak about the Bajaj Group, and pretty much it's very much the same ethos that runs, and largely because these are two organizations which are, he said, 100 years. Tata's are about 150 years. Largely, my founder sits right behind me there. Largely on philanthropy, giving back to the community. So it actually works within the organization itself. The ethos runs within the organization. A large part of what you actually see within the organization is also that there are people who are lifers at the group, mostly. I mean, I have spent about 34th year in the group, right? So you start with something that you see your seniors actually do, and you try and move that down the line as new people join. So one of the learnings that I've actually had is it doesn't take very long or very much for someone to volunteer or to be a kind of an ambassador for these things. It doesn't take long because you see the ethos of the company and that builds it. So you have also rightly mentioned that there are several companies, several engaged in several businesses within the Tata Group. But one thing which unites them is the philosophy of the company. So if one is able to clearly articulate that and be able to convey that in the most transparent manner possible, I think that there in itself starts the journey of someone doing good and giving back, doing all that we spoke about, whether it is the Tata Engage program, and these things actually develop as we go forward. So there are several pieces to it. We have, for example, within the group, made this into we've used our excellence model. We have a team that works on it's called the Tata Business Excellence Model. We have used that to try and figure out whether we can work on the volunteering aspect also. So several things have been picked out of that. We clearly a lot of it, of course. There are schools of thought which say that don't put targets to it. Don't ask what were the numbers that you end up the year with. So but I think it is also equally important that at the end of the year, the people, the companies also feel that they have achieved something. So we do that with a couple of 2 or 3 different parameters that we call or KPIs that we call out. Whether it is the per capita volunteering hours, total number of hours, or unique volunteers, as we call. So we are a company of nearly 1 million employees, slightly over 1 million employees. We would be about 1.3 million very soon. What are the number of hours that you've been able to get from them? Or what are the new volunteers that you are actually getting on, not just the old volunteers? So we track that. So it becomes fun. It becomes also competitive to a certain level. But I think these are things that we constantly build on and try and move this forward. So I mean, I'll leave you at that, and then later we can take a
Absolutely. So I think definitely the last point was around, of course, goals, metrics, just to be able to energize. But more than anything, the articulation and the example setting, right? Just in a family, we're talking about people learning from good manners that are essentially showcased by the rest. That seems to be a large part of the ethos of if you've grown in an organization where you see the senior leadership or the tenured employees continuing to contribute, it almost becomes subconsciously something that you cultivate within yourself. I think that's a great point. Right now, while organizations such as the Tatas or the Bajaj might have that legacy, there are also several companies who want to do it much earlier. I know Cognizant is no longer a new company, but relative to the other two. So, Bala, but I'll move to you. Right? Structured participation, thousands of employees. Did you ever have to face the challenge, Bala, of moving volunteering from being a nice to have kind of a conversation to like scalable behavioral conversation in just your experience in your current organization?
Hi, Sriram. Thank you so much. And it was great listening to Mr. Chacko, Thomas, and Kurush. 100+ years, like big legacy. And I think me and Manisha are coming from 30-year-old organization. So Amazon and Cognizant were founded in 1994. So we are a 30+ year old organization. So, but a great question. First of all, thanks to CII and Sriram for having us here. on this International Volunteer Day. It means a lot to share our experience and learn from others as well. It truly makes a lot of sense. So at Cognizant, uh, the philosophy that we have is like no volunteer left behind. We strongly believe everybody has a heart to give back to society, but not everybody knows when to give, where to give, and how to give. So we, as a lead for volunteering, so what we do is facilitation. So the initial days when we started in 2007, when we launched a program called Outreach, which is for volunteering, in 2007 is when we started, even before like CSR law and everything came into existence. So we saw our employees going to a nearby school, teaching children, going to a nearby orphanage, donating things there. We saw there is a lot of giving back that is happening. And then our management felt that why don't we formulate a group that will facilitate this? And that's where Outreach, a program called Outreach, which is our employee volunteering program, was initiated in 2007. But in the initial days, we didn't actually structure, like we call like managed volunteering is an oxymoron, right? So do you want to really manage volunteering, or volunteering has to happen organically, right? So initial days it was organic, so we left it like grassroots. So volunteers found a school, they want to go and teach students, they want to go and conduct an annual day. So it was all organic. So we started happening grassroots volunteering. But like you asked, when it started scaling, right, when it started happening, thousands and thousands of volunteers came into and making a difference, that's when we brought in a structure in place, and we also made it a strategy towards volunteering as well. So we, being a large tech workforce company, we have a huge tech workforce into our company. So we have like two verticals that we promote volunteering, and one is supporting inclusion in tech, and the other one is giving back to community impact. So community impact focuses on environmental conservation and all the like blood donation type of volunteering, and all of that happens there. And while supporting inclusion in tech, right from schooling to higher education to supporting charities, how our tech ecosystem can make a difference. So we started bringing in a top-down approach at a point of time when you wanted to do a shift. Grassroots is bringing in, but can we bring in managed volunteering, and can we see an impact over volunteering also? We started doing that. That's when we brought in strategy. So we do impact assessment for CSR programs that we do it at the community. We started analyzing, can we also have such impact assessment on our volunteering programs? So we started curating managed programs that had step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, end it, and then measure the impact. And that measurement and success goes back as a feedback to the employees, and they come back. So that's one of the retention strategies to have the volunteers come back and again. Unless they get the feedback, the impact that has happened to the community, they keep coming back. So to your question specifically, we had grassroots, and then we brought in a strategy in place, made it a little bit of a top down in terms of structuring the volunteering programs, but not also uh, armed, handcuffing the volunteers also. We don't put, curtailing the volunteers. That is also there, where we have put a vertical called passion. Anything that's passionate about, you do. Going to old age home, sing songs for elderly people, dance with them, it is also required. So we have everything under like a managed umbrella. We have metrics, and then that helps in tracking. So I hope I did answer your question, Sriram.
No, absolutely. It also, some companies use the term, and the way I interpreted at least the last part is almost having like a portfolio approach to volunteering, right? Not necessarily saying that, hey, this is the only thing that, don't adopt a holier than thou approach to defining what is good volunteering versus impactful volunteering. Yes, large scale impact is important. It will drive behavior because it is reinforcing. But while doing that, also give the kind of space for people to pursue what they immediately want to pursue, because all said and done, they are providing their time. I think that's a great point, so that you don't need to necessarily preach, right, to the set of people who are doing.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Bala. Manisha, needless to say, like, I'm privy to the scale because we manage some of the systems. But first of all, I think you should talk about the scale of volunteering that you have managed, at least over the last few years. But more than the scale, I think one of the most important things is we have seen in some organizations that volunteering ends up being restricted to some kind of being a white collar engagement or an participation part, right? A few people, a set of people do it. But yours is a great example where there is true last mile participation and last mile impact, right? Just some views on how you have managed to accomplish it, and what is your thought process while you build for that?
Thank you, Sriram. Quite an interesting question, and I'm really privileged to have a very eminent panelist in this forum and the day, which is so important to talk about it. So, really glad to share the experience here. I think, particularly from the question, in India, we all have grew up in the culture of giving, right? When the child born, we give. When we start something good in home, we give. So it's something, it's built into the culture, irrespective of what level where you are and what journey you have been. When we started our journey in India, we had a very simple thought process saying that, when we work in the community, we are the neighbors of that community. And it's important to give back to that community with equal passion in the areas which are the most needed in that particular community. So, with that thought process, we started interacting all our cohorts, whether it's our frontline workers or it is our, safety team or our security teams or our, housekeeping team. We all used to go in the bus, visit the panchayat, understand what is there, whether it is cleaning the lake or whether it is cleaning the school, painting the school. And then it became like a practice, like every month everybody will go and do this. So when we started this, it was just the passion to give back, and something came. Like, I also want to thankful to all the the 100+ years of the companies, because they created a leadership engine who have already seen their the giving culture in their previous org, and they brought that here. And that has also become like a reinforcement, right? You as organization has certain belief. You are in the country where there is already a culture of giving, and then you have leaders who also firmly believe and have practiced in their previous org. So it becomes a win-win for everybody, saying that, this is something is the right thing to do. And when we started doing it, it was never of like, start with the leaders and then, the senior managers and then this and then that. It was always that, because see, when we work in the operations, you hire from the local communities, and your your resources coming from the local communities are the best ambassadors to guide you that what is need and how to do about it. And that was the segue for us to really define our volunteering charter, and saying that, okay, we do have our frontline workers who come from the same village, born in that same village. What would be the pride moment of going in the same school and then giving back through a mentorship, or by doing the hygiene sessions or doing the career counseling in whichever form. And gradually, after 2 or 3 years, we saw that, very transformative stories where, a supervisor become the first level of a manager, and saying that, when I go back to my village and when the younger generation start looking at me as an inspiration, that is something made my day. Because while I'm earning and doing my job, but I'm also giving by through the volunteering, is the proud moment for me to continue and working with Amazon. So that's how this reinforcement and as a collective effort started, and the journey became, with a few thousand, when, and I think Gurera and we both have hand in hand lived this journey from 2016 till now. And it has been experiment which have grew up and reached to the millions of numbers. And yeah, it's still a day one for us to take it to the next level.
Yeah, like everything else in Amazon, Deva, right? But no, it's great. Thank you. Thanks for that, Manisha. Kurush, just, switching tracks back to you. As someone who has been in an organization where we proudly spoke about the legacy, right? I'm sure you come across or you talk to other practitioners in this particular area, who are finding it difficult to make this a mainstream, quote unquote, mainstream conversation in the mindset of their leaders, right? So there could be business leaders who might say that, hey, yeah, it is optional, right? It's not necessarily core part of what I want to do, right? What would you say to them? As in, what is the advice that you can give to them in terms of being able to bring all of this together?
Jim, I think we ourselves are in that curve right now. So I don't think we are in any position to tell others how to go about it, because we are ourselves going through that curve, to be very candid. I think what the group has done has been a lot of activities from a nation building perspective, right? So a lot of institutions have been set up, but employee volunteering is still, I would say, relatively nascent compared to what has been done on the institutional side in terms of whether it's for education, for health, for various things we're doing. So I think we need to first, or at least I think we can do a lot more than possibly what we're doing right now. So we want to get to that level. We do look at what Tata Sons does, what Manisha called out. For us, we've done a lot of benchmarking. In fact, in the room, I have Kavish with me who leads this program for us. So a lot of it, we've been benchmarking to learn how others are doing. And somewhere, a philosophy has also been that this is, as of now, it's not something we are pushing down or we are mandating, right? How, and I think Manisha put it very well, that culturally, we all want to give back. Like how Bala said, but you don't know when, where, how. Can we create an ecosystem where that information asymmetry is solved for, where we create those avenues, we create that bridge so that those avenues get done. That nudge is required because people are caught up in work, so on, right? So there is a nudge required. But once you give that nudge, typically what we've seen is once you experience it, your repeat value, right, in the typical business parlance gets very high. And then as about it to others, we see more acceptance coming in. So I think for us, I mean, applies to us, but this is the same message I would take to others. That can we create avenues to increase awareness, opportunities, help connect. So one, it can happen organically, right? And it happens today. I'm passionate about it. I find a local school, I go and do something out there.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily track that, but anecdotally, we hear so many examples, but not something that is managed or tracked. When we do the same thing at a certain scale in terms of some drives, okay, we start managing and tracking it. But now we're trying to bring options that here are 20 volunteering opportunities open in the next 15 days. These are the type of partners. This is what is happening. Employees get aware of it and they sign up for it. They go share their experiences. I love the part Bala called out, that how do we measure what is happening, or how do we get back with stories of success? And that's a takeaway for me also coming in from that sense. I think to me, it's more about bringing it, giving the soft nudge, giving the story a look back that, okay, what is a benefit? So clearly the employees see a benefit, right? I think sometimes what we only think about by doing it, we're giving a benefit, or we are partaking something, but the win-win is on both sides. Whenever I have spent my time in some of these, the one, you come back more humble, more grounded, you start appreciating your life in a very different context. But I think you carry some of that back at your work in terms of your own culture, the way you work. And of course, what you do on the ground is making an impact out there. So I will humbly submit, we're not in a position to teach anyone. We're still learning in that phase, taking some notes down from the stalwarts here. But at least these are the early reads that we are putting into place at this point.
Got it. And Kurush, just probably a quick follow-up, because in the earlier answer, you did speak about, other than, of course, what you mentioned right now about just the humility and the grounding that it provides, you also spoke about volunteering being an opportunity for skill enhancement in the participant or the employee itself, right? So from that point of view, do you think that will also be a considered attempt to try and find opportunities that is a convergence of skill versus opportunity, or right at the get-go, you just want to have the most number of people experience as much as they can and then think about fine-tuning it a lot later?
So we have both the models, Shriram. I'm equally passionate about driving the skill, even though that may not be large numbers. If I were to give an example, as part of our CSR, we run a SkillServe program where we train students to build careers in the BFSI industry, because that's the industry we come from. What we have done is, from our respective businesses, we got people to create programs, right? So somebody from a insurance business, somebody from a gold loan business, somebody from a microfinance business. They all know what they look for from a person joining a career. They know what is the typical gap you get in academia. Now, behind the scene, they've made the whole curriculum, that this is what the curriculum should be. They're helping us monitor some of this on the centers we're doing it. Now, this is not going to be large scale in terms of number of people participating, other than actually volunteering at the center for guidance and all. But their own time and skill, and even for them to create that program, is building a skill in themselves also. So I think there are many such examples where their skill, and we see that in digital marketing, we see that in technology, we see it in HR practices, where people bring their functional skills, which our partners are using to take the benefits to the people they work with, or directly with the people that we can work with.
Great.
And Kavish is giving me a nod, Shriram, so looks like I'm saying the right things.
No, at least I think the attempt everywhere is to do the right things, and and hopefully, if dialogue leads us, all of us, to that, hopefully better.
Thank you.
Thomas, just from conglomerate, large scale program, scaled multiple years. Now, just switching track to the India at 100 theme, right? Where nation building can be an outcome of sustained consolidated volunteering powered by corporates, right? Do you see some very clear alignment on areas where the Tata Group will want to drive volunteering meaningfully in a particular few sustained areas, right? Topics, areas aligned to both nation building as well as business interests.
Yeah. So I think I'll take that question, or I'll take this question first, and I just wanted to add on to what Kurush had mentioned, so that it'll give you some more perspective, because there's pretty much the same angle at which most of us actually are working, and maybe would add to the knowledge or the confusion. So whatever, right? So anyway, so I'll to answer your first question. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There are a few things that, and I'll give you a few examples, and the three examples that I will actually choose. One would be around the digital piece of it. The second would be around green transitions, and third is primarily skilling. These are the three things that we see convergence of a lot of interest amongst the volunteers. Okay, so when you talk about digital, the first thing that comes to your mind would be TCS. Yeah, and TCS actually has a fantastic volunteering program, which is actually called Each One Empowers One. Now, this is a digital literacy program where the TCS employees, they provide individuals basically with the functional, financial, and again, like Kurush mentioned, digital literacy, basically just to ensure that the citizens' entitlements, which are there amongst a lot of these schemes that the government has, we are able to unlock that in the most inaccessible areas possible, right? So this entire training is done in about 9 languages. You have the TCS volunteering team has actually created training modules. They created videos. They actually created assessment models, and eventually also giving them digital certificates saying that you have completed this course. So if I remember right, there are about 11 to 12,000 volunteers who are actually working, registered on this, with 18 Tata companies on. So it's a cross TCS and some of the other companies. So that's one of the models that I can actually talk about. The other one is there is a model, there's a volunteering program that Tata Power runs. It's called Pay Attention. Now, this is actually, it's for special children, and it is actually giving to the educators, parents, and caregivers, some practical tools and some, advice in terms of how things should be done and what are the resources again available from the government, etc. So there's a whole set of people who are involved in this. Again, about I think if I'm not wrong, what 10 to 12,000 volunteers on this aspect also. On the second green transitions, which is something that our Infinity Retail, which is the Chroma shops that you see, primarily driving an e-waste recycling program awareness kind of thing. Now, the idea is to ensure that you not just using your employees as volunteers to collect these e-waste, but also using them to educate people. You practically have them going to different housing societies and giving that piece there, telling them exact. So these are a few things like that, and all of these, like what Bala mentioned or Kurush mentioned, we track them in terms of what is the total e-waste collected, for example, through this entire thing. So we have a system around that too. Last one is skilling. So we have what we call Tata Strive, which is a skilling an organization only for skilling within the Tata Group. And Tata Strive and the companies actually work in terms of providing these skilling opportunities to to people in need. Where a lot of things convene, and I think it's what is extremely important is to understand that volunteering to a great extent, yes, it is something that comes from the heart, etc. But there needs to be a structure around it. Unless you have a good structure around it, you'd possibly not find the impact per se. And to me, the greatest blessing that I have is that right from the top, and it's a top-down kind of an approach, right from the top, you do find leaders who are deeply committed towards volunteering. Now, while you may have leaders, you need to also articulate an ambition. So we had an ambition that we had set in terms of number of hours, etc. I won't bore you with that, but there was an ambition set at our apex saying that at some point in time, in 2025, we should be at an X number. We have beaten that. We have gone far ahead of it, but an ambition needs to be articulated there. Now, we also have to ensure that this is something that is fun to do, not something that is being forced on somebody's head. So these are all things that all of them spoke about. Now, we also recognize that a volunteering program, one size does not fit everyone. So what we have tried to do in this case is that we have something called the Pro Engage, which is pretty much about working with NGOs, actually giving your expertise to these NGOs to do certain things, and it's a very, very intense effort, again driven largely during the weekends by employees out of their working hours. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is the volunteering efforts that we have during the course of the week or during the course of the month. So what we also do is we have twice a year a month that is dedicated towards efforts driven across the entire Tata Group by different companies. So you have a concerted effort which is being taken in driving that entire piece at that point. And last but not the least, I think we also have some volunteers who are trained to respond to disasters. I think Kurush spoke about it. But in this case, what we also have, these are people who are actually trained by these are not first responders, but these are people who actually go after a disaster to ensure that recovery takes place, etc. I think all this is borne by what we really uh, use as a tool, which is called the excellence in volunteering, which I spoke about in the beginning. It's actually something that we developed with our business excellence team, and we try to get that bit also into it, so that there is a method to this madness as we speak. But the most and that's something which we really look forward to at the end of the year. And it is something called the Volcon, which is called the Volunteering Conference, which we hold annually, where so we have a cadre, we have spokes in each of these companies. So this entire spokes and the entire volunteering community, along with the business leaders, assemble at the end of the year on a particular date for awards, for recognition, for stories that are, and it's done pretty professionally, so that everyone is aware of what's actually happening. And annually we come out with something we call, this is a document that we come out every year, and this is called the We Engage, which lists out exactly what our performance has been. And this gets headlined by a message from our chairman. So what we have tried to do here is that while we recognize that there is so much of commitment within the organization, we try to put things together in such a way that we can drive volunteering as not just an activity, but also fun to do, and with an objective at the end of the day. Is this perfect? By no way can I say it's perfect. Do we have instances where people are extremely competitive? Yes. Do I want to make it less competitive? Yes, I do want to. So these are problems that we deal with. But overall, I think I do feel that we have in place a program that has got heart, that's got a soul, and that's got a purpose. So that's what. I'm sorry for taking such a lot of time, but I thought I'll just try and.
No, this was very, very, very insightful. Thank you. Bala, onto you in terms of, if you were to actually provide for a playbook for mass engagement, right? As in, how do you really rally and create the, not just rally, but after having rallied, you would need to create the ecosystem and the foundational structure to be able to drive participation at scale, right? Which is again true in your case over the last several years, right? What would be probably a 3-4 step playbook that comes to your mind, given how you have approached this challenge in your organization?
Sure, Sriram. So for others, I can give what I've done recently, but by and large, there's a book written by me and published on Amazon. Manish is here. So I've published a book on 101 impactful ways to volunteer. So the book talks about 101 ways to volunteer. By sector, you want to volunteer in education, environment, healthcare, you go to page number this. By duration, if you want to volunteer less than 30 minutes, 1 hour I have, or like more than 3 hours I have, you have categorized. And by mode of volunteering, I want to do virtual, I want to go in person, I want to do from office. So that's also available. So it's available on Amazon. So I'm not selling my book, but but for larger references, you can use that book. People who have read it have really appreciated it. So it's like a guidebook for volunteering that I put it together. So for your question, see, for me, I head the employee volunteering for Cognizant India. Uh, a lot of people a little bit get greedy or envy about the job that I do, and they come and ask me, "Can I come into your role?" or like, "Can I come into your team? It is stressful. The work that I do is very stressful. Can I join your team?" Is what I said. Like, so the difference that I keep telling to everybody is that so the stress or the goal that you are there in a business delivery team is set by your client or your boss. When you come into this role, the goal is set by yourself. So me being here and not being here is decided by me. So nobody sets the goal. So I keep telling them that stress is from within and not from outside. So I enjoy, I say like 2017, I took up a full-time role. I tell people I quit working 2017. I celebrate working every day. So I keep innovating, right? Like being relevant is more important. So this is the first time I'm revealing as an exclusive, probably exclusive message that I'm sharing. Yeah, I've not put it on the LinkedIn or social media yet. So from the month of August till today, like till last week, we ran a campaign called Volunteering Premier League. So inspired by Indian Premier League, we know India, we are so fanatic about like cricket. So we wanted to gamify volunteering. We said like you volunteer 1 hour, you get 1 runs. You go out and volunteer in an outdoor place, you get 2 runs. And you volunteer more than 2 hours, you get 4 runs. You bring two more people to volunteer, you hit a six. So we launched this campaign August end, and in 1.5 months, we had 16,000 people volunteered and 38,000 hours of volunteering and 58,000 runs scored. So we just gamified volunteering, and it just brought amazing numbers and results. And one unique thing is that it's again my survival and my strong instinct that like everybody has a heart. That's very strong. Everybody will give back. It's about we facilitating, right? So given that like we have curated a catalog of opportunities, because we know one size doesn't fit all. So we have cataloged, we create opportunities in person, virtual, you education, environment, passion. We give we give variety of opportunities for people to come out and volunteering. So large scale volunteering, to your question, this was one model that we drove, and it has been truly successful. And this number is exclusively revealed today. We have not even published to a large group yet. So 16,000 volunteers in 1.5 months and 58,000 runs scored by our volunteers was magical. And Shriram, if I can add one more point to your question to Mr. Kurush. So how do we balance with the board, top level, and how do we still run the show, right? So for me, volunteering is not part of CSR budget. So employee volunteering doesn't come into CSR budget, but still I have to carve out this budget somewhere from my leadership team. So how do you go and pitch? So I have like certain points that I actually use it to go and pitch and get that board buy-in from that. So board has, and the top leadership CXOs have business objectives, people objectives. From a people objective point of view, what I go back and tell them that like, "Hey, I'm going to make 100,000 people volunteer." That may not excite them, but I say I make volunteering happen. Because of volunteering, there is a 13% exit rate of people when they volunteer. So I did a research. I did a study of my people who have volunteered and not volunteered. I saw 13% less exit rate, people who have volunteered at least once. So I go and tell them that I'm helping you in your retention goals. I'm reducing your cost of hiring. That's one of my point to my board. Second is that I engage so many people whose self development is people who have volunteered consistently are showing career growth, career progression. They become very good managers. They become empathetic leaders. Their soft skills has improved exponentially. The way they communicate, they become empathetic, and all of that has happened. So I'm bringing in a culture of empathy within the organization. That's another thing. When clients come down from rest of the world, I take them to the volunteering places and I tell them that we don't just do software services for you, we also do social services for you. So let's join hands in social sector beyond business. So I strengthen the client participation and relationship for the organization. So these are like some of the business imperatives for the leadership team that I take it to them. Rather, I telling that like I will educate 10,000 children, I will skill 1,000 people. So matching their KRAs or KPIs aligned to that. It's all narrative end of the day. So that's what I would say. So how do you narrate to different stakeholders is what is very key. I thought I should add that. And uh, back to you, Sriram.
No, that's great, Bala. You're actually right. A lot of I don't know, a couple of years ago, we partnered with somebody who's based out of, who's a professor at Oxford, who had actually done, and this is not just specific to Indian companies, this was a global study. And without intending to do so, when they tried and evaluated the employee, quote unquote, employee engagement levers and practices across the top 500 companies, the only one that seemed to have a meaningful impact on belonging, retention, productivity, without it intending, it was not a volunteering sponsored study, was actually employee volunteering, right? There is this gentleman named William Fleming. He still is a professor at Oxford. We continue to do work with him. But that's when there was actually this linkage that was created between, hey, yes, there is an impact orientation to it in terms of the communities. That is most important. But there is also a business case if people are truly the valuable assets for the organization, because it seems to be the most meaningful engagement or belonging lever, right, in an organization as well.
And Sriram, in the same line, right? A lot of our workforce are around like millennials at this
Yeah.
moment, right? And World Economic Forum study says a lot of millennials, 75, 80% of millennials prefer to work in a purposeful organization. And volunteering is one way to demonstrate that your organization is purposeful.
Yeah.
Though you may be able to tell what we do for the client, end users, and all of that, but
Yeah.
this makes it so meaningful for everybody to stick on. The stickiness to the organization increases exponentially. So I'll pause. I'll have Manisha.
Thanks. Manisha, probably the last question before we close on time. If you had a vision, you had the opportunity to design this one bold industry-wide initiative, right, for everybody to come together, right? Because we are also talking about organizations being a powerhouse of being able to rally volunteering, but then ultimately, how do you contribute to nation building, right? So if you were to think of one bold initiative based on all of the discussions that you've had with peers from across the organization, what do you think it should be, and probably why do you think it should be that way?
Great question, and I've been pondering about it for last 1 year, saying that we as Amazon we had our own journey. Like when you start doing volunteering, you do it for a fun, you do it for a team bonding, you do it for one time, two time, one as occasionally. Over the period, you need a purpose with it, right? No doubt that first time you go, you excited, you learn from the community, you feel that humility, and you come back with that reflection that what I learned and what I give back, right? With this journey, my leaders also throw a question to me after a couple of years saying that, Manisha, it's all exciting, now we want the impact and we want the purpose. How do we go behind the impact and come up with the strategy which will really create a you know a, a transforming impact in the community? And I've realized that everybody thrives when they see that their own core skills are getting leveraged for doing an impact. Then we said, we as Amazon, we have a logistic expertise, we have a e-commerce like a tech expertise, and then we have a full warehousing and the operational expertise. How do we leverage that to unblock the community problems? That's where we partner with Akshay Patra and we help them to optimize their line haul, make sure that they have the right dashboards, saving the cost into the contract systems, improvising their sustainability indicators, working on the safety hazards in the kitchen services, etc. And the way that project was delivered and the way my leaders have passionately taken that as a skill based volunteering program was so fascinating that it doesn't matter how many hours they spend, but what was exciting was the impact it came out. And Akshay Patra told us that with the 6 months of the exercise, they able to increase their reach to 250,000 kids with the cost they have saved in this exercise and the way they have optimized their process. And now the organization who is doing this as a good to do has now have that rigor and that competitiveness, saying that, hey, this kitchen is doing such a good indicator on the safety and the sustainability and the cost saving. How do we do it? and that create a different way or the perception of thinking of how you want to operate your organization while you're doing good for the society, but these parameters are also important. Similarly, disaster prone situation, we were the first organization who reached in the Kerala flood relief within the 70 hours by using our line haul, by using our a selection of the sellers, getting the right inventory for the disaster relief kits, making sure that there is a inventory availability, the transportation is provided, and the volunteers reach on time to help the affected communities. And that's where we felt that volunteering can be seen in a different way than doing good, because we all are doing. And obviously, as at a primary level you have a different thinking, when you go to higher secondary you have different way of the perception, and then when you go to the in your skill based organizations, you start looking at your professional skills which you want to acquire. So that's how our journey has been in the volunteering. And I feel that in this forum we have such a wonderful organization, like Kurush talked about their electronic expertise and the way they work in that area through their own way. Tata Group has been working with the various companies in their own way. And rather than doing the a good to do program, we take sustainable development goals, and we say that my organization, like Amazon has expertise and developing the online marketing for the micro entrepreneurs or the small SAGs. How do I take a goal for India that by end of this year we will be able to successfully onboard or increase the income of the micro entrepreneurs by X to Y through the skill based volunteering? Similarly, the Tata Group takes the goal on making a difference by using their train as a brand, which sells the organic and khadi products which are made by the tribal of Jharkhand or Orissa, and really amplify that perspective as a good for India, which is important in the current scenario and the context where we are operating. And definitely the Cognizant, who is already working with so many international clients, they bring those expertise to unblock the development sector or the government PDS system, which requires a very robust mechanism. Right now, when you go to the public distribution system, you don't know when your grains are coming, how many kgs you will get, what will you get, whether you are eligible, if you change the village, what will happen. So all that tool, if we able to develop for the PDS system, which is right now as working in hands and feet and not having the tracking mechanism, those are the expertise we can bring, and we can really make our nation proud and take it to the next level with the expertise and the knowledge. And million plus employees, such a big asset. You don't need to spend your CSR money, you just need to spend your certain hours and really do a thought driven impact which will transform the country and help everybody here.
No, correct, Manisha. In fact, I personally believe one of the best examples of, I don't know if it was called volunteering at that point of time, of corporates joining hands and being able to drive a large agenda was the first set of probably 20, 25 people who joined Nandan and this team at UADI were actually people seconded by organizations for 6 months to 1 year, right? And then they went ahead and brought their expertise to be able to creating a really world-class solution to like a population scale problem, right? Now, if it could happen in a curated manner, that's probably the nth level of skill-based volunteering, right? As in, we are taking it to the highest level and putting together 25 people who can solve a problem. But there is no reason why that can be, for the lack of a better word, mass customized to be able to solve for multiple problems, because there will be several organizations who are willing to do that, and several employees from organizations who will be willing to actually work on something that is a lot more purposeful, right? So, absolutely correct. This has been a great time. We just run out of time, run over time. Thank you so much. There was a brief moment of worry 15, 20 minutes before when Cloudflare still acted up and that we could not log into the link, but all is well and that ends well. This has been a fantastic session. Thank you so much for all the fantastic insights. Once again, thank you so much, CII and India at 100 Foundation, for giving us this opportunity. I really wish to continue to be connected and exchange notes with all of you. But have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Kurush. Thanks, Chacko. Thanks, Bala. Thanks, Manisha. Really appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was really insightful.
Thanks, Manisha.
Thank you,
Thank
Shriram.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, Manisha, and Bala. Thank you so much.